one blanket, 2 blocks, a bolster or a pillow. You can even turn a blanket into a bolster. We're gonna find ourselves in that holding place a bit more. Our pose of the week is Crocodile or Makrasana, which is a external rotation of the hips slightly with the ground underneath us, and I like a blanket under the pelvis. So really all you might need right now is one blanket under the front of the hips, the pelvis, the pubic bone, and then everything else you can set aside. We'll start in our pose of the week. So when you do this, how far apart you take your feet, your legs will vary depending on how intensely you want this to feel and your mobility there. So laying on your stomachs, blanket underneath the pelvis, fingers will interlace as you take your hands together, and your head will rest on the back of your hands. If that ever gets to be too much, you can always rest on an ear, and then we can switch part of the way through which ear you're on. Toes will turn out. Okay, so the inner arches of your feet are trying to connect to the ground, and that might mean taking your feet as wide as your mat. So Makrasana pose, belly down. If that's not available to you, just holler and we'll come up with another version. Otherwise, our first pose, Crocodile pose on your stomachs, head resting. Let's get going. We can get into the low back and the quads. Yeah, absolutely. So when you get here, I want you to, I'm going to demo this real fast. Find comfort in the surrender, okay? The belly down. I like to sleep belly down, so sometimes this feels really good for me. Toes out, heels on, head resting. Notice if your shoulders creep up to your ears, draw them down. You need to bend your knees a little or straighten your legs a bit more. You might even wiggle the hips here a moment. In this prone position with the belly down, you'll take the breath further back into the lunge. So it'll be a nice big stretch for the upper back, mid back. You can pay attention to the muscles in the low back as you breathe. Allow yourself to stretch there. And this week, as we come to the third eye, the Ajna chakra, the vision to see, our perspective, ability to look upon our experiences, associates with these qualities of Aquarius that is intellectual. It's this fixed air, right? We might get really firm in the way we think. So we may move through the world, right? The same way, seeing things through the same lens. And then it creates this pattern for us. A mind's eye, when we really try to slow down with it, is getting curious with the way we think and how we show up. Getting curious about how others, the world around us, thinks and shows up. So maybe rock the forehead slightly, the pituitary gland there, front of the, and we want to think about the prefrontal cortex, the thinking capacity of the mind. You can just draw a gentle rock and back and forth, stimulate that space, and then a deep breath in. And a soft exhale out. What vision do you have for yourself? What visions may you have for the collective? This practice is a chance for us to slow down so that we may check in with ourselves. It's also a lovely reminder that we are a part of something greater, a whole. So when we check in with ourselves, we simultaneously check in with the whole. It's just like interplay. To have vision is to forward think, maybe to start to seek out, to create, envision what we'd like for ourselves. That can start with why we are here right now in this moment and on our mat. How does this pose feel? Where do you feel it? What are the thoughts running through the mind at the time? It's going to give you a couple minutes of silence as you take this pose. When the mind wanders off, be generous, be gracious, and just work yourself back. Take your last 5 cycles of breath here. When you finally take your last cycle of breath or so, you're just going to bring your feet in. Let the tops of your feet find the ground. Bring the hands under the shoulders. Take a big inhale as you lift your head up. And as you exhale, press back to child's pose. Let your hips drop towards your heels. Your forearms, if your blankets there, can rest there. Offer your forehead towards the ground once again. Breathe in. Breathe out. One more inhale. And exhale. Let's come on up to hands and knees. And we're just going to turn and you can move that blanket out from under your knees, or you can have it under your knees. You're just turn your fingers back towards your knees, one hand at a time, and you may not get them all the way back, okay? They may be more turned out towards like the back corners of your mat, your room, a space around you. Just press away, look forward, and as you breathe in, take like a half a centimeter back. Breathe out, bring it forward. Gazing for that vision, okay, the ability to see, and then feel your way as you shift back. You look down your shoulders and watch around, okay? I want you to really elongate and keep yourself space. Look forward as you come back forward, and then keep looking upon a little bit out in front of you. Breathe in, hip shift back. And as you exhale, let's come forward, shoulders rest over your hips. And you can look down now. Flip one palm up. Fingers still back towards the knees, another palm up. Fingers, again, pointing to the knees. And same thing here, set your gaze forward, look forward. Imagine you can spot with your third eye, so that spot above and between the eyebrows. And as you inhale, shift those hips back slightly. Keep pressing the ground away with the hands. Breathe out as you come forward. Breathe in. Notice where your gaze wants to go. What shifts? Does it start to go down as the tension goes up? Do you wince? Do you close your eyes? Breathe in, look forward, come forward. And then last one, as you breathe out, shift slightly back. Maybe you curl your fingers. Breathing in, you'll come back to forward. Tuck your toes, okay? And then just let your hips come back to your heels. Let's just take a few breaths. Move the wrists around. The shoulders ever feel jammed up? It's also something to take note that we might feel it in our wrists. So you can do some of these stretches and it works both of those at the same time, especially if you're on a computer device for work. And then we're gonna take our next pose for pigeon. And I really want this a propped up pigeon, okay? Sleeping swan in yin. This is a little more active than I even normally do in this. You can always come to lying on your back, okay, with one ankle across the thigh bone. You can do that seated, but otherwise I'm gonna suggest you have your blanket, you have your blocks, and your bolster, okay? You're gonna take your pigeon, right side first, try to get your right thigh bone to rest along the blanket. So that blanket is underneath my hips, it's underneath that right thigh. That heel of the right foot can work a little closer to the middle, and this could give us a little quad stretch. Rob, we'll go explore that a little bit more too. And then get your props, your two blocks, maybe on the middle height even, and the bolster or pillow on top of it, so it's something soft. You can just settle in here. If you want to take this a little further, you can come down further, okay, and go this deeper into a stretch. You can get into that right quad and that right hip a little bit by taking it over to the left slightly with the upper body. And here I just let my head rest on the bolster as well. So my arms rest, my head rests, that third eye space. And then I try to just let my shoulders drop. You'll start to turn a little bit onto your hip. We're not going to be here nearly as long. We're just trying to get the hips and that quad and maybe the glute for a moment, for a short moment. To include it in the big picture, the vision, big picture, the vision of our class, why we're here, what we're doing. If your aim was to come to this class to work into the low back, maybe that means moving some of the props away or adding more so they're a little taller. We're trying to stretch the low back, you might go deeper. Make this as comfortable as you can for yourself. Notice your breath as you take on this pose. If you haven't closed your eyes, maybe close your eyes for a few rounds. Let's take a long breath in and a full breath out. You're going to slowly come out of this pose. You can come to seated or onto your stomachs lying down. Just let's find a neutral spine for a moment. So you may just swing that left leg forward, move the props out of the way, sit up tall, take a nice big inhale. Exhale, let it out. Take that for yourself 1 or 2 times. A deep breath in to just kind of sit or lay back on your belly or your stomach or your back, all of the above. Exhaling. And then you'll set yourself up for pigeon on the left side. So again, your blanket can go under the left thigh bone since that'll be the front leg. And your blocks and bolster can come forward as well. Your right leg will go behind you. I like to, again, get my thigh bone fully supported, my knee supported, and even scooting that knee in a little bit, or the foot in a little bit. And then how high up you go. You may set this up so it's quite tall, quite close. You're just hanging out. So a version of this pose for yourself to probably get a slight stretch, right? And then able to hold and relax for a little while. If you're on your back, that left ankle will cross over the right thigh bone. Notice how you feel this pose on this side. To have vision, to have sight, to see. This isn't necessarily like ocular, right? To envision, to have the curiosity, the ability to dream, to forward think, future thinking, these qualities of Aquarius. What are we willing to dream? What are we willing to think into possibility? That everything we think or say or do matters. Ajna chakra, the mind's eye, the landscape of within, might tell some things, it might reveal some things to us, or it might be a way in which we engage and stay curious with the world. So as you hold a pose and the mind starts to work, what do you notice? Let's take your last few cycles of breath here. And once again, you'll slowly come out of the pose. You can come to lay on your stomachs. You can rest on your back. You can come up to seated. Just get a nice neutral spine and try to get both those legs long. You can shake them out. Point and flex. You're on your back or seated. Let's just take a deep breath in, fill up from your belly into your collarbone, your crown, and exhale out through the mouth. A deep breath in, and a full breath out. Doing that 1 or 2 more times on your own. Deep inhalation, full exhale. And then slowly, we'll come on to, let's come up to seated. I want to show what we're aiming for today. Stonehenge is going to be the pose on our back. It's a lovely resting pose. You can have your blocks, okay, set up like Stonehenge. So 2 blocks and a bolster. And then your calves will rest on here. And one thing you can do also is add a layer if you need to make it taller for your legs to rest. And you're like, maybe you don't have 2 blocks, right? No problem. You have a chair or a couch. The same idea, we're resting our calves and trying to get our thighs vertical. So from the side, this pose, the blocks are about hip distance, front hip distance apart. And I just get nice and cozy on it like I would for legs at the wall, lay back. And then rest your legs. Your ankles can hang below your knees slightly, your heels can. And arms can come out, or hands might rest on the stomach. Finding a way to just get those femurs vertical. Get your thigh bones vertical. Big bone, lots of muscles and tissue around it. And big joint, right? The knee joints. And the calves resting on the seat of a chair or on what you've got. Yeah. And lay down. You're a little bit chilly. I just realized I was a little cool. I'm gonna put on a sweater. We'll be here for a while, friends. So get comfortable. If you have any additional props you wanna bring under your head, you're welcome to do so. Then notice how you rest here. As soon as you lay down, did the mind wander off to somewhere? Was it forward thinking, future thinking? Was it anticipatory? It's not a right or a wrong to your observations. It's just ability to see it, be with it. When we slow down with ourselves, when we really put that intellectual component, the observational, um, it's an example of us trying to shift from reaction to response. And when we do that with ourselves, this inquiry, we start to maybe get a better idea of how it is that we exist, right? Do we do things a certain way? There are specific feelings that come up. These might be circumstantial. It might be just something you're experiencing in that time. It might be something that's been occurring in long standing. But often, until we slow down and make those observations or make time for those observations, those experiences can kind of float by one after the next after the next. We live in a very future activated world, right? Where we're trying to do, to accomplish, to achieve. Yoga is reminding us that to even create a springboard for our actions, something that propels us and offers us the most potency, is to slow down, to get real clear. Imagine what you want, see it as possible. Observe as you are. Know that that's part of the experience. One breath at a time. Keep coming back to your breath. Maybe take a scan of the body. Notice any tension that's crept in, any lethargy or numbness. So you have a few options. You're welcome to stay put. If you'd like to take Shavasana in its traditional form, you can move into a corpse pose laying on your back. A blanket can go just under the back of the head and the tip top of your shoulders. You might like blocks under your hands, allowing the elbows to drop below the shoulders, like in their plane. And a blanket or bolster underneath the backs of the knees. We're going to take several minutes for rest. I want you to consider for yourself where you are, what's it feel like, what's the temperature of the room you're in, the feeling of your clothes, any the prop supporting you. Maybe open your eyes wide for a moment, take in the sights around you, and then slowly close the eyes, noticing any shapes or colors behind the eyelids. Go through the scan of your senses, right? What do you smell? Any tastes that linger on your palate? Sounds far away, sounds nearby. Get settled in by tuning in and then letting it all go. So that Shavasana, the death of the practice, the surrender. See it for a while. Thought after thought after thought as they wander through. You can physically be and energetically find a stillness. Take a long breath and exhale, let it all go. you find rest and stillness in this moment. In those chances, you wander off with a thought. Had someone describe it, this practice of mindful stillness, meditative stillness, as if we're sitting on our back porch and back deck of some home, right? We're looking into the yard and spending our time there. It's comfort, just being at home. And then the next thing we know, we drifted off. We're off in a car somewhere far away. Suddenly not at home, not looking into our yard, not into the back, but that traffic that we heard in the background, the noise of everything moving around us captured us, right? It's like we popped in, hitchhiked our way down out of our own house, out of our yard, somewhere off into the distance. Until we stop and take a look and realize how far we've gone. We may not even notice that we've wandered off. That's how often we leave our physical selves, the moment we're in. We think about the past, we think about the future. We utilize this tool, this practice, to remind us the sacredness of the present moment. A chance to truly see ourselves. Take your last 5-7 breaths here, starting to grow each breath a little deeper, a little longer. Feeling the breath expand the torso. And the exhale, gently contract. And then starting to grow longer and longer, feeling the breath up to the crown of your head and down to the arches of your feet. You'll take it out to your fingers and your toes and add movements, expand and contract. Roll and maybe even move that head from side to side. Allowing the movements to continue to grow. Maybe the arms reach overhead. You can hug the knees in or walk the feet in, feeling your soles on the ground. And slowly coming onto a side. Just notice which side you land on. The left side of the body, the feminine, the lunar, the subtle. The right side of the body, the solar, the masculine, the active. Notice which nostril you breathe through more easily. It's usually our top right. So when you're laying on your right side, you may notice the breath moves a little more full and easily through the left nostril. If you're laying on your left, you'll feel that the right side of your nose. Slow down, observe, see yourself. Take a deep breath in And an exhale out. And you'll gently, mindfully rise up to seated. And then you'll bring those palms together over the heart. This gesture of union, of oneness, allowing yourself to honor it, maybe dropping the chin, bowing towards this within us, this center, this union, our individual experience to the collective experience. And planting a seed of gratitude here, drawing to mind something you're grateful for. It could be a person, it could be an experience, a moment. That this simple act of gratitude encourages us to lead longer, healthier, happier lives. So mindfully, we lift the thumbs to the third eye, the Ajna chakra, the forehead center. May our gratitude inspire our thoughts, which become our words, our actions, our behaviors and habits, are samskaras, the patterns in which we move through the world. Bowing forward to the practice. Namaste.